Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode, A Small Space for Young Entrepreneurs. And I am sitting with a very special guest, Eric Branner. He's the CEO and co founder of Fons. Fons is a scheduling and payment app that he's designed to help him out with his business and has been able to share it with uh, everything from every small type of business based businesses that are such as personal trainers, online tutorials, music teachers, coaches, and so much more. Let's get into the further detail. Hey, Eric, how you doing today?
Hey there. Nice to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Great. I appreciate you coming on and talking a little bit about your past and how you became an entrepreneur. And I look forward to what you're bringing to our venue for today. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you started? What made you become an entrepreneur?
Sure. My road to entrepreneurship was kind of written in the stars. My grandfather was a concert classical musician and a band director. So I knew I kind of got that gene of wanting to be a musician. But my father was a serial entrepreneur. He was one of those people that he was an engineer, but he would have a moving business and had like 3 moving trucks. And then we got a pool, and he couldn't just have a pool. He had a pool company to where he would sell pool supplies. He's like, you can't not sell them if you're going to use them. So, you know, I was really encouraged both to be initially to become an artist and to go out on the road to do that, but also to be entrepreneurial. And that's something that's kind of always been baked into me, just like you were saying, we were talking earlier, since day one. So I supported myself for a long time as a musician, and as an artist, but also did a lot of other kind of contracting work for different arts organizations and things of that nature. And about a handful of years ago, I had the opportunity to start a technology company, and it was just kind of fell in my lap, and it was the next great challenge. So I did that, and that's what I'm working on now, which brought me to doing Fons.
So, let's talk about the reason why you decided to go into that venture in the first place. Um, as a small business owner myself and owning quite a few businesses, I always found out uh, I always feel that most of us have a problem with consistency. So, especially that's a topic that I've been talking about for the last couple of days now, where people such as myself, where every day becomes more and more of a challenge for us to be consistent, not only to ourselves, but to our clientele as well as our personal lives. Can you explain, is this part of the reason why you decided to design funds? Is it were you losing a little bit of time with your personal life and you felt like you need to do something about that?
Well, to be honest, I had been, living in Seattle. My wife was an actor. I was a musician, and I loved to teach. And I ran this music school here. That was like my main gig. And I wrote books and really enjoyed the scene. But I'd been doing it full time for about 15 years. And really, I had reached a point where I was ready to just do something different. That itch where you're like, I wanted something new. And I planned on going to law school or maybe going to get an MBA or something like that. And then it was more or less the opportunity arose to work with some people that had major experience in doing the technology startup. And it was an opportunity where I went in knowing nothing. Uh, and it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up, right? Where they were like, hey, this business model that you're doing really well, there might be a way to automate a lot of this. So it was actually more of a meeting of the stars. I was looking for something new to do. The opportunity came up, and from there I jumped on it, and I said, yes, let's do this. And then through digging in that idea, the original pain point that we were trying to solve was to automate my music school, because my wife was the administrator of it, and she spent 10, 15 hours a week running this, and it was a lot of time. And so we're like, hey, it'd be great if we could automate the things that she's doing to give us more time, like you said. But then we quickly found that, wow, this is something that like a whole lot of people could use, and there aren't a lot of great solutions for it yet. So as we started digging, the opportunity just kind of presented itself, and we went for it.
How do you feel about the growth of the business since you started funds?
I feel great about it. I mean, we're still here, and it's starting a technology company is very difficult, especially if you're doing, you're building it stateside, you're engineering it here, you're starting from scratch. There's a lot of competition. And it's intense. Startups are, as you know, startups are always intense, and it's something that I am really proud of. I'd do it again, and we're really starting to see the fact that the first couple years of building a brand new product, it's very slow, right? Because you're trying to figure it out, what people actually want, what people are willing to pay for. You're really hustling to get your first base of customers so they know how invested you are in their success. So, it's been great to reach that point where we've got that idea of product market fit, that maybe your listeners know about that. That means when your product is really right for the market, when it fits the pain points that people are looking for, they can wrap their minds around it, and they can adopt your technology. So we're pretty excited about where things are headed right now.
Do you feel that your product itself is fit for a certain niche in the market?
Yes, definitely so. That's a great question too, is that we realize that, I'm a music teacher. I run a music school, right? And as that is a relationship-based business, and a couple things that happen, and this is where you could also have, if you had a lawn service or a dog walker, or an academic tutor, a personal trainer, the idea is trust, but the idea is also recurring appointments, right? If you go to class every week, or you go to 2 classes a week, and often it's one-on-one or it's in small groups, that's what we really focus on, because the friction points, traditionally, are like invoicing, waiting to get paid, incorrect amounts of invoices paid, cancellation policies not being respected. So these friction points are what we've really focused on in automating. And the further we got down the road of engineering and design, we didn't get broader, we got more myopic, right? What we do is we like, oh, we love how personal trainers are very goal oriented and they sell their services this way. Let's bake that into the app so we can offer that to all these people, where like music teachers might not have thought of this before. And so it's been a really, really great project, and the idea of focus and not doing too much, right? The further we go, the more we want to get, really kind of niched into, the million people that make their living this way, right?
How does your wife feel about all this now that you guys have grown substantially? Now, if I remember reading about this correctly, within a first year or so, some of the people that have joined up with Fons have increased their sales by 25%. Now, I thought that was, to most people, uh, that's not something to bark about. I mean, that's a pretty nice expansion. And I figured with all the expansion that you guys are doing as a business, how's your wife feel? How did she feel when you first started this endeavor?
Well, we've always been in it together. I'm very, very grateful to have such an awesome life partner. And, she's been all in since day one, right? She was all in for the entire journey. And she's had such a big impact on the platform itself, because much of what we were doing was automating the work that she did. But, now it's great is that, I'm still teaching too, by the way. I can't have just one job. So I also still teach. I was our first customer. She's off doing bookkeeping and acting, and so she's doing her deal. And so I think we're both. The reality is that starting a company, there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of very long days, as everybody that's listening here would know. But it's also really exciting, right? And we are both wired for that. We have hustled as artists and creatives for a long time, and we both really enjoy that. So for the most part, she's really stoked.
That's great. Well, last week I got to sit with a personal friend of mine. She was telling me about how her new husband is he's a guitarist as well, and how it fit her so well to be with somebody that had that type of entrepreneurship, where he was so passionate about something he loved doing so much that it really fit into what she does. And from the way you're talking to me right now, it's something I can see in your face. Every time you talk about your wife, it just lights you up, which is really great. But what do you see that are some of your complications right now with owning the amount of businesses that you own, and some of the challenges that you're growing into right now that you are looking forward to seeing the end to?
That is another really great question, because that's the other reality of being in business, right? Is that when stuff goes south, whoever in our team is dealing with it, it ultimately lands directly on the person at the top, right? If you're structured and you're running your business in an appropriate way. So my challenge as a leader and as a business owner is I have a very hard time turning it off. And I saw this in my dad too, right? Where I care so much about our customers' success. I care so much about my team that there are points where it's really unhealthy, right? Where I have to really work to not wake up at 2:30 at night every night thinking about, you know, profitability or new features or things that we want to do for somebody or a bug that we had, so building a technology company, especially, you're dealing at scale, right? Where if it doesn't work, these are people's livelihoods that are depending on it. And also what I've learned over time is that people are very understanding. Like when mistakes happen or something breaks, if you communicate openly with them, you've already built trust. It's just like any other relationship. So that's the thing that is the most, I would say, uh, not exhausting, but it really takes out of running a startup is that if you have the passion to do it and you figure out a way to make it work, and you're so connected to it, is to be able to remove yourself from it. Like there's really, since I've started this, there's no real vacation in my mind. I can go to the beach, but I'll still want to work, right? And my family's had to adjust to that. And to be fair, I was like that when I was a full-time guitar player too with my music. It's like it's I think it's kind of baked into people that do this type of work, and it's a personality. And I come across as very laid back because as a human, I'm very laid back and I love to communicate with people. But when it comes to work, I really take it seriously. So I think that's something I'm still working on improving and trying to come to terms with.
I can relate to that. Being a business owner myself, one of the biggest things that I have had a very hard time with is as I've mentioned it in past episodes, I call it baby syndrome. And what that is when you start your business, you've walked it through, you've coddled it, you've caressed it, you've done all the numbers for it, you've done all the running for it. So to not be around it at all changes how you feel and how you act, how you treat others because you're used to being there. I want to say 24 hours a day, but we all know the truth. You get 1 hour out of the 24 to sleep. So, but that automating life has been a challenge for most people because they don't know where to go with automating now. I've talked to many people over the last year about how some people have been doing their assistants are via chat logs like we're doing right now, where their assistant actually is just by a computer and not really hands-on one-on-one like they used to be. And I think that this is where programs such as yours really allows us to make sure our customers realize that we are paying attention to them. We're not forgetting about them on an everyday notice where people used to just write their names on a pad or a calendar and 6 months later on you'd be give them a call to remind them they had appointments. What do you see? Do you feel that your business, some of the challenges you have as far as your tech business is concerned, is that there are so many businesses like yours?
No, I would say that that is definitely not our biggest problem or our biggest challenge because the market's big. I don't know if you saw this statistic, but more people Googled how to start a business last year than they did how to find a job, which this was like a transformative moment in history, right? Where it's like a big deal. Like TikTok had more video views than YouTube a couple months ago. Like, you're like, wow. And the fact that so many, and what we do is we support these small business owners, right? And we support larger firms like music schools and multiple, tutoring firms and things like that. But the majority of our customer base are these information sharing single business owners that are serving their communities, right? So we really lean into them where and we know them so well because Frank, I was one forever and then I went out and met 500 more people that did it and really interviewed them. So that's an area we've kind of drilled into, where we feel like in the space, although there's plenty in every, a vertical, and you could consider a vertical in this case. A vertical could be music schools, a vertical could be academic tutoring, a vertical could be gym owners, right? For the people that are listening, we're talking about a vertical of an industries, or that we can serve. We serve these different verticals, and in each one of those verticals, there'll be something that's generally specifically made for them. So we have a lot of smaller competitors, but then we have like large competitors, such as Google has a scheduling system, and Calendly. There's like really good companies out there, but they have a broader focus, or they have a different focus. So, our job is telling that story that, like, oh my gosh, no, we built this for your success of you. And I think that's a great thing about tech right now, is that there's enough people that we can reach, right? Because we're serving the world instead of just serving, Seattle, that we can find our customer base and we can build our community that way, which is something that's really a great thing about how the distributed world works now.
I can relate to that as well. I was looking into your program as well as I was looking into, let's say, Google Planner, for instance. And one of the things that I found intriguing about your program is its affordabilities. So you're fitting a large mass of people where everybody is tending to do the same thing, which is, how many employees do you have? And that becomes intricate for a small business. When a small business sees that somebody's going to start charging you $50 per employee, that makes it rough on them. That's a large profit loss right there. When you start talking, well, I'd like to see 3 employees, but I'm dishing out $200 or $300
Mm-hmm.
a month just for a program that's allowing me to schedule them, where we can see back and forth scheduling, or I can give them their weekly schedule for the week, or they can schedule their own customers for the week, and I can see what they're taking on. This is, I want to say that I've found that this is something that all tech companies right now are challenged with, because bigger firms right now are eating them up because they're offering more at a bigger price. And do you find that that's the truth?
Um, Sometimes we know that it can go both ways. There's, like Square Appointments has bought a lot of smaller competitors up. But what's lost, and what we have baked into our what we have baked into our business model is community and customer success, right? So we are trying desperately to scale the idea of having live, in-person customer success to help our customers and their customers, for that matter. And that's this idea of, like what you said, of making it personal. And the other big piece that we're doing that really kind of differentiates ourselves is that, that schedule you were talking about, right? We've actually baked the billing model into the scheduling. So let's say I'm one of your clients, right? And I come regularly to have my car detailed, right? And it is just, you could set it up like an Uber, where I would just show up and I come in, I schedule it, I schedule my appointment, and at the appointment's over, there's no like invoicing or waiting. It's just the card gets billed on file, because we trust each other, right? And this is that concept about our model. You could also sell packages of appointments, or whatever it is you're selling, and the system tracks those. So our big thing is we take that scheduling system and we bake it into a billing system, eliminating invoicing, which is like, because invoicing is the pain point for small business owners all the time, especially when it's client based. My client base was lawyers and doctors and CEOs, like real people that were really, business people. They don't have time to open up an invoice at the end of the month and send me a couple $100. It's like, it's such a waste for them. And we're really doing this platform as much for us as a business owner. When I first started Fons, I had close to $10,000 in just outstanding payments, not because my clients didn't want to pay me, right? But because they didn't have time, and I didn't have, the bandwidth to go chasing them, right? And over time, these things add up. And quickly after that, I had zero in outstanding payments, and they were happy because they didn't want to deal with the invoices. So, I feel the more we go and the more focused we get, yes, I'm always concerned about the big competitors, but I'm also really excited to be swimming in the same pond with them. And, when we have a week where we see a lot of new customers coming over from a behemoth, like Google or something like that, it feels great because you're like, wow, our little team has won against this, this
A giant.
Goliath.
Mhm. Mhm. It's okay, David. We can allow you to throw that stone. It's good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, man.
So let's you were talking about receiving payments from the customers via your program. Now, do you guys receive those payments on your own platform, or is that through a different platform that's ran through your program?
Fons integrates with, we use an enterprise version of Stripe is what we do all of our processing through.
Okay. That's common. I understand
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And I might have seen earlier that you got a couple summits coming, huh? For your guitar instruction?
No, not for my guitar instruction. We, we're a part of a lot of events as far as just in the industries.
Mhm. Now, when you're running if I remember correctly, your instruction goes anywhere between 5 to 85 for teaching people, huh?
Yes. Well, traditionally it does. Now I'm only teaching 10 or 12 clients a week, and I do it because I'm absolutely love it. Like it's what I do. So, and
Mhm.
plus I love having proof of concept of my platform. But yeah, currently I do teach all ages, but most of my students are between high school ages and, 60.
Mhm. Do you find yourself, even though you opened up your own time using your program, do you find yourself more adapting yourself to spending more time with Fonz than teaching?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it is, um, yeah, I teaching is something that's totally on autopilot for me now. My client, I've been doing it here in Seattle so long that I get phone calls every week of people that want to work with me, and I usually pass them on to other providers. But I was the president of the Seattle Music Teachers Association just in this last previous um, session, and so I'm really involved in that scene. But Fonz is most of my real focused workday now.
Mhm. Now, I know that we talked earlier about a certain topic that your wife, as well as yourself, like to use, and it had something. I gotta see if I can try the quilt. Can you
The
explain the
income
quilt to
quilt,
me?
yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain the income quilt to us?
Yes. When Allison and she was out of art school and I was out of music school, and we were just kind of, living our early 20s here in Seattle and having a fabulous time. I was playing gigs and I was playing, shows and doing session work, and she was acting and doing industrial commercials and stage work and film, whatever she could get. And then we'd always have our various odd jobs too. We always called that our income quilt, right? Which was like all the little things that we did to try to make things happen because we were both like wanting to do things, right? Like she might want to try seamstressing, or I would, we just always had so many things going on, and we like to be busy. It's kind of our nature. And so we had this thing called the income quilt, which was just kind of all these different things we pieced together, which actually ended up giving us a lot of security, right? Where over time you think, wow, I've got all these things that I enjoy doing between gigs and teaching and whatever else it is I'm doing. That if one of them goes away, you lose a client, you still have 6 or 7 other things. So it's actually was a really cool way of being. We really switched when I started Fonz. I learned that to do something big and at scale, it took myopic focus, right? And so that was like my energy and my intention needed to be 100% focused on um, learning how to run a tech company and learning how that works and everything else about it, from the marketing to the growth to the customer service. And then I just became ultra focused on that. And so yeah, the quilt went away. It was more of like a job quilt of all the different hats I had to wear every day.
I can understand that. I own a couple of those quilts.
Yeah.
So right now, by talking to you, I can see your excitement about your program. Where do you see your growth in the next, let's say, year or two?
Year or two, we've consistently shot to double in size and growth every year. And I see that happening again. Right now, we're really our main thing and our long-term strategy is to delight the people that we're working with. right? And to know that building any company, as I'm sure you know too, it relies on consistently delighting the people that you're working with, right? And you're serving. So that is our big focus, is because it's very easy as you grow to have things slip, right? To remain consistent, to keep that personal touch. And that's something that's really important to me. So our real goal is to continue at this kind of growth trajectory. We're really hoping to, have close, probably in Q1 of this year, we're hoping to have like a 23% growth, right, in this first quarter, which would be awesome. And remain being really of awesome service and being very present for our customers. And that's what I'm really mindful of, is being able to build an operational system that creates happiness and success and doesn't make them feel undervalued or overlooked.
So I got the chance to meet an employee of yours, and not to cut off the beaten path, but they're so excited to work with you. And I gotta say, it was a pleasure getting to meet a member of your crew where they were so passionate about talking about the program and about you and about what you brought as a presence.
Hmm.
Can you maybe talk to us about what what keeps you and your employees so tight like that, where they enjoy working with you that much?
Wow, well, that's really kind of you to say. And that makes me feel really good to hear. Uh, and my father was the same way. Is that for me, leadership, I don't really have any. I don't really have a whole lot of ego when it comes to that, whether it's a term. I don't need to be called. It's like sometimes I get embarrassed about being called the CEO, but it's kind of what it is. And my leadership philosophy is, especially in running any business, has been whoever's at the top works for everybody else. Right. And so I make a point to make sure that my job is to support all these other people that are doing great work. Right. And I'm also responsible for having the vision. Right. So I need to tell the story of why I think this product's important, why the people we serve deserve to be served. Right. But I also need to really be humble, right? Because I'm also the one that has to field the mistakes and the challenges and support the people that are working on the team when those things come up. So, and that's really, I don't know how good of a job I do it, but that's always my goal, right? I really feel as if the people that work for me or with me, that I work for them, right? And that's how I feel better imagining that way. And I feel that same way for our customers, where it's like I am serving them and I'm really grateful that they're there. So hopefully it seems to be working.
Well, it seems to be, because they when we were talking back and forth about having you on our podcast, they, she was enthusiastic. She was so spirited. So it was great to see that you had an employee base like that, that not only believe in your product but believe in you as well. So,
Thanks.
if you could give a piece of advice to a young entrepreneur about some of the struggles and some of the expectations they can have about starting and running their business, what would be the piece of advice that you would give them?
I would say if it can, is one is to be very open-minded, right? Is if you're feeling that it is to really, if you're looking to do something, is to just ask the universe and keep your eyes peeled for opportunity and then jump on it. And two, the thing that if you have never started a company before, is to go into it with someone mentoring you, because people that have gone through the entrepreneurial process, they know how hard it is and they want to share. They want to see other people succeed. Like any successful person I've ever known that's done something, they always want to help other people, right? And I was mentored in a way by people that were wise enough to allow me to make mistakes, but not huge mistakes, right? That knew that was going to be the path of my learning. And that was something I was so grateful for. Like I didn't know how to incorporate a company or how to like get the lawyers to do that. I didn't know what user experience meant when we started Fons. So being able to trip your way through and learn quickly, and know that like, hold on, like starting a company's super intense. And it's like, to really do it, you can, yeah, make it a side hustle and turn it into something, But if you want to really go for it, if you got a big idea, having someone to mentor you is just so valuable, because someone that cares about your vision, it will just save you so much time. There's an adage that's going around the technology space right now, is that venture capitalists, and they love second time founders, right? They love people that have been through it once, right? Whether they've failed or succeeded. And that's another reality, is I think people, if you want to go out and start a company, start a business, you can start small, you can make it a hustle, you can fail. Most people do that are super successful. If you read their books, which you should be reading those anyway, you'll find that mostly they'll fail one or two companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they
Agreed.
figure it out. It happens. So, preparing for that journey, I feel like that's another great encouragement.
I find that I was listening to another podcast not too long ago, and I was listening to them talk about how funny it is when you are within the first year to 3 years and you're in the struggle, and how it was funny. I think it was Andy Fischette or something like that, and he was talking about how our lives as business owners become tiers. And he was talking about how from the first to third year, you're like, pardon my language, you're the badass. You're trying to make sure that you're going to be on top of everybody else, and it's going to be what it is. And then the next couple of years, you're starting to feel yourself folding into other people's tiers, where these guys have already been 5 years, they're already been 7 years, they're already been 10 years, and you're starting to grow into those where you're now doing what they're doing for you. You're looking at somebody else and saying to them, here, I've already been through that. So let me hold your hand on, and I'll show you which way you can go that will make your business better. And I can relate to that so much now than when I used to, because now I see myself doing it. And after I reached my 12th year, I was like, well, it's good to be able to give back to people. And the podcast was a great way for me to give back to people and say, hey, let's try to get some of those questions that I had a hard time getting answered for you, and maybe programmers such as yourself, how your answers could be feasible through them, and maybe offer them something that they couldn't offer themselves in the first place. So coming to pretty close to the end of my show today, I have 2 questions I usually like to ask all of the people on my show. And that is, the first one is, in your location in Seattle, what is your favorite hole in the wall place to eat?
Well, my favorite, if I said hole in the wall in Seattle, it would probably be Thai Tom in the U District. It's truly a hole in the wall Thai restaurant that's to die for. I'd say that would probably be it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, seeing it, this was a topic that you just brought up even a second ago, and that is, what's your favorite book?
Ooh. My favorite book, would you well, I think I'm looking at a bookshelf full of business books. And if there was one that I might want to encourage to your listeners, I would probably say, let me just see if I can find it really quick. I think anybody that owns a business could really, really benefit from this book. Let me find it, because one moment, sorry. It's on the idea of restraint theory, or constraint theory, excuse me, and it's called The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt. Have you heard of that before?
I've heard of it. Yes, I haven't had the time to read it yet.
So yeah, for anybody that's starting a company or running a company, operationally, The Goal is something that blew my mind. And The Goal is basically, it's the idea of constraint theory. There's also a graphic novel of it that's fabulous, which is looking at an overview of your company and finding out where that bottleneck is. What is that thing that's slowing you back from succeeding? Because I don't know, for me, I was so focused on certain things. I was missing very obvious things that I could tweak that would have huge improvements in our success. So that would be one I would highly recommend.
Great. Now, as far as my listeners are concerned, how can they get a hold of you? How can they get a hold of your program? If they're interested in finding out more information about your services, how do they find that out from you?
Well, we're at Fons.com, and there's that intercom box on Fons actually goes to a live team. So when you type into that chat, that actually goes to humans, right? And you can write in and be like, "Hey, I heard Eric," and they'll be like, "Oh, here's a way to get in contact with them." We really try to listen to people, and we love to connect with people. So that's the best way. If anyone would like to see more about the platform or learn about the software, we do live demos with our customer success team, and we also have, if the idea of business and this type of work is really interesting, we have a very impactful Facebook group called Fons Family. And you don't have to use Fons to be there, but the rules are very simple. It's be kind, be willing to be helpful, and really be motivated to do great work. And it's about 1,300 small business owners, school owners, gym owners, just all kinds of folks, people like yourself. And we talk marketing, we talk competition, we talk sales. But it's really it's a great, fabulous resource where everybody's cool and none of us are competing, right? Because we're all in different spaces. Like you have a detailing service, and your business could have the next town over. You're not really competing with that person. You could actually be sharing marketing ideas because both of you just want to crush your own market, right? And so this group has been fabulous for that. And I'm really, it's one of my things I'm most proud of since founding Fons. It's called Fons Family. And any of your listeners are welcome to join.
So in our episode notes on our podcast, as well as our YouTube channel, I have posted down at the bottom a link that if anybody is interested in getting a hold of this information or following him to his program, feel free to click on the link down at the bottom, and it's all set up for you to go right to his services. Eric, I want to thank you very much for stopping in Small Space for Young Entrepreneurs and talking to us about yourself as well as your program and your journey. I hope to bring you back on maybe in the future and see how bright and smiling and shining you are then, and how much growth you've had between that now and then.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on here today.
Oh, it's been great. It's been a great experience, and I look forward to seeing you again. So everybody, this is Scott Masha from Small Space for Young Entrepreneurs, and I thank you very much for listening to us on this episode, and I look forward to seeing you next week.